What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring everything fresh in entertainment. I'm your host, Drew Brumfield. I almost messed up my own name. And joining with me just this time is my friend Seth.
Hello. I'm ready to suit up in our best suits and take a visit to the Continental and talk about movies.
Yes.
Or one movie, really.
Specifically one movie, because this is just a review for this time on John Wick Chapter 4. The fourth installment in the John Wick franchise, if that wasn't obvious, came out fairly recently, and we were considering doing the whole franchise, like all of them, but then we kind of realized no, there's a lot to talk about with just this one, and we really want to talk about certain moments from just the fourth entry in this that we're just like, okay, we're just going to do a review on this one. But yes, John Wick Chapter 4 is out, and I would say it's just as good, if not better, than the previous John Wicks. It's still fun, it's still action-packed. Somehow it still has unique and interesting ways to shoot and cover actions, despite this being the fourth entry in an action movie franchise. It still feels unique and interesting, but before we go ahead. Sorry.
That's kind of the cool thing about this film and just John Wick in general is even though this is definitely a franchise at this point, we now have 4 movies and a spin-off series coming later this year. It doesn't feel like it's getting stale. Even though we've had one just about every other year. So I'm always I think I'm always impressed by that team that they're always able to come up with new and creative ways to keep the just really a simple story. It's the same story in all of them. Yeah. Man is too angry to die and kills everyone.
Yeah. And they just do so much with that of just between fighting, and I would say there's still a little bit of character growth with John, but clearly not the focus. This is one of the most I'm about to sneeze, so I apologize if I do. But it's one of the best, just testosterone filmed, action beat up movies that you can watch, and this whole series is. So before we get into, because this movie specifically has, depending on how you count it, either 13 or 14 total action scenes, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
One movie, I know it's a long movie, but God, some of these go on for over 30 minutes of just beating people up. So before we get into we'll kind of go by each of the individual action scenes and also talk about the characters that are involved in it. But before we get into that, no spoilers, Seth, what are your kind of just general thoughts on Chapter 4?
Very simply put, this might, and it could be recency bias, but this might be my favorite John Wick out of all of them. It's amazing to me that with each film, they are constantly upping the stakes and bringing so much more new world building to it. That is, I've always argued barging the past has never really been necessary to the plot of John Wick. It's always been straightforward action scene with a surprisingly complicated lore backing it up. But I will say for once, this film actually feels like it makes it feel necessary, and we'll get back into that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm constantly surprised by this team. And I just want to say that one of the reasons I love it is maybe I've seen a bit too many behind the scenes clips and stuff online on social media for this thing. But it feels like everyone just had so much fun on this. Keanu Reeves, Skarsgård, every person who was a part of this looked like they just had a great time making this film. I think that's the important thing is it is a crowd pleaser through and through. I think this is definitely worth checking out.
This definitely feels like a passion project for not only Keanu but the team behind this. You don't make 4 movies with majority of your cast always returning, a majority of your crew always returning without you actually kind of liking this project to a degree.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree with it. I will say, and I'll get into why in the future. I still think that Chapter 1, the original John Wick, is still my favorite, and it might just be nostalgia biased, which is a different kind of bias than you. It's the exact opposite bias of yours. But I think I really like how simple and effective John Wick Chapter 1. It's literally like retired assassin just trying to live his life. His dog dies after like his wife passed away recently, and he just goes on a killing spree. And just like the aura of this like mysterious, who is this guy? The Baba Yaga, the boogeyman that people are talking about. Really, like, I just like how the simplicity of the story in one just works so well for the story. But I will say, Chapter 4 is definitely a very close second. And it might be a thing where, like, after giving it some time, it might move up to number 1. It can be convinced to number 1. So, but yeah.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah. If you're a fan of this series, definitely check this out. And even if you're not, you're missing out if you're not like watching these John Wick movies, because they are some of the best high quality action that is coming out nowadays. So,
oh yeah, I mean, like, there's a reason why this series is just constantly inspiring like action films to this day. Like, you know, we talk about the first John Wick, and I know we don't have to go into a whole history, but you know, everything was kind of like shaky cam until like John Wick, the first movie came out in 2014, 2015. And then since then, like a lot of films I feel like have been paying more attention to like, hey, let's maybe not go so heavy on the shaky cam. Let's show everything. Let's get more intimate with the camera angles, and let's focus more on like really good choreography and like a lot of gun fu shit, you know? Like you could definitely see its DNA in like other films like the Kingsman series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely been because I think that kind of started with the whole like Bourne series is originally where the whole shaky cam started, and the idea was to get the audience in the action, but most of what it did is just gave the audience whiplash. So I'm glad that like,
well, the difference is Bourne did it well, and then every other film that tried to copy it did it the absolute wrong way.
Yeah,
give
really
everybody
just
motion sickness.
Yeah. I still like, I don't know. I'm back and forth on shaky cam. It's one of those things where it's like, if it's done very sparingly, it could work. But yeah, I definitely agree that like nowadays it's kind of it's overused and a lot. It's used a lot to hide, you know, actors not knowing the best choreography or just to kind of be lazy with it.
Or just to cover up like it's a stunt double or something like
exactly.
that. Yeah, I feel that. And like, you know, it's one of those things where when it's done well, it's really impressive, like in the Bourne sequences where you have like action scenes or chases, but whenever it's done poorly, it's done very bad.
So, I agree with that. But yeah. I think, you know, we've given kind of our non-spoiler things. We've been around the bush a lot, so this is your one warning. We have told you that, hey, we like it. We recommend it. Probably, I'd say 4 out of 5 stars. Seth might even be 5 out of 5. Not sure.
I feel like it's a 5 out of 5 for me personally. I'm maybe it's a bit too early to say it, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is most likely going to be my favorite action film this year, and it's really hard to see anything topping it.
So, that is our non-spoiler. Now, you know, I feel like it's time.
Get out. If you haven't watched it, get out.
Get out. Yeah, I think I've given everyone plenty of warning at this time. So now let's talk about the movie in detail. And it started out literally the first frame. I don't know if it was like this in your theater, Seth. But did that like low-key jump scare of the fist hit? Was that like way too loud in your theater and scare the shit out of you? Is that just me?
No.
I
feel like that might have been just like something for you where like the projector person was just like, oh shit, it's too loud.
Bro, that first punch on the bag was louder than any gunshot in this movie. It was so... Boom!
That's amazing. Also, this introduction with Wick coming in, and he is used very sparingly compared to the past 2 films, but I love Lawrence Fishburne, and I love how much he hams it up. And his little monologue that he starts this movie off with is just, I think he's quoting the Bible. I'm not entirely sure, but man, it could be just making this shit up. But I love a Lawrence Fishburne monologue. He just hams the shit out of it.
He has such a great voice for monologues. I literally remember last night I was just like scrolling through channels or whatever, and he apparently does this like conspiracy theory show, and I was watching it for a good hour just because he's so interesting to listen to. I have no idea what he's talking about, but he has such a great voice.
On like the History Channel, right?
It was on it's on the History Channel. That's like great mysteries. They're talking about how like
history's biggest mysteries. Yeah, or something.
They found some clock in ancient Greece, and I'm like, this is so interesting. I mean, it's stupid, but Lawrence Fishburne, he's great.
I'm pretty sure Lawrence Fishburne could read the back of like an aerosol bottle and make it sound very compelling somehow.
I'd be invested in it. But no, he's great. I love that. I love that these movies, even though like we're 4 movies in, they still treat the main character almost like this force of nature, this like just kind of like this almost unearthly being that is just walking among us. You know, don't make the joke about it. But I love like I love the way that John is still treated as just like he is the thing that you should be terrified of. Like if you're the villain in this movie, you should be scared of this man in this bulletproof suit. And it immediately cuts from that to this like pretty cool but ironically like one of the lower intense like fight scene, and it's ironic that I say that because the lower intense fight scene is him shooting at people while riding on horseback through the desert.
Oh yeah. It's very funny to me because it's just like, no offense, but how are you missing here? Because like there's nowhere to hide.
Look, to be fair, I don't know if you've ever ridden on horseback, Seth. That is not easy.
Younger, but you're fair. That's right. It's not easy to shoot. But that being said, though, I just can't help but think of like, you guys should have given up or tried to fight back at some point because it's just like you're in the desert. Where are you gonna go?
Oh, no, I don't blame, man. If John Wick's chasing me on a horseback, I'm just gonna dive on the ground and just make it quick. Just go. Just walk around.
I will go back to a quote at the very beginning of Chapter 3 in John Wick, where one of the hitman is like, John, that's a lot of money, and he says like it's not worth anything if you can't spend it. And all I can think of is like, one of these guys are going to be like, you know what? I'm not gonna live here. I'm just gonna stop.
You know,
and it's like I'm not gonna do this shit.
It's like. I saw a comedy thing, like it was like a dumb Instagram post of just like anytime a higher bounty is put out on John Wick and there's just like the smartest henchman in the world is just like, oh hell no, you could put trillions of dollars on that man's head. I'm not going after. You said all of New York as a collective to kill that man and he won. No, I'm not fighting John Wick. I don't care.
And that was when it was like $8 million. That was $7 and $8 million. In this movie, it gets to like $25 million. That's more than double the original bounty. It's like, no, hell no.
No, the fact that like he survived and killed a good portion of New York, and I'm not worried about that. At one point, one of the new characters, Mr. Nobody, goes like, you're not worth enough money yet. I'm like, bull fucking shit, he's not. He's literally the highest bounty you can collect at one moment. Who are you talking about?
Drew, the part you're missing is that like no money is worth going after John Wick because you will not survive.
But I don't understand this guy's logic. I'm just like, I need more. Like, I need you to get a little bit, bigger before I can collect this bounty. I'm like, dude, there is no higher bounty than this guy right now. And he, like, what are you talking about?
Like, by how much? What are you on about?
What are you trying to buy? A country? Like, what is happening? Oh my gosh, it was funny. But yeah, he goes to New York and, gets his finger back. No, he's trying to get his ring back, right? And he's like, it's gone. He's like, well, still gonna shoot you. I do love that about like John Wick is that like villains don't ever last a conversation, and it was something that's like even in the first one, like they never do the thing where like, oh, he holds him at gunpoint, but through circumstances or through a flash brigade, they narrowly get away, and he's like, I'll get you next time, claw or whatever. No, John, like anytime he's like, all right, I'm done with this conversation, and just shoots him. Every like,
Yeah,
it always makes me happy.
but
I'm just like, he's smart in the fact that like this would be a problem later if I'd let you go.
it reminds me of like even though it's my least favorite of the series, I do really like in Chapter 2 where the main bad dude did that, who I really don't remember too much about. I mostly just remember the scene where he's hiding in the Continental. He's like, "Hey, you can't break the rules in here. You can't shoot me." And John's like, "Fucking bet," and then he just blasts him.
It's like you want to bet on that? Like you sure? You forget who we're talking about?
Oh god.
But it's great. But speaking of the Continental, I do want to address the elephant in the room with this movie. And it was done filming by the time that this person passed away. But his name is Lance Reddick. He was the servant, kind of a slightly minor character, but a cool character. Like he was the servant to the New York Continental, and unfortunately, he did pass away in real life, and also in this movie, which is really unfortunate. But there's not much they can do about that, I guess, because that's just how that.
Yeah, and I mean, like this film had wrapped up filming like over a year ago.
Yeah.
So, this is like completely coincidental, but it is heartbreaking with Lance Reddick, especially since so many people like cite so many like things that they saw him. Like for me, I think my first real exposure I took note of this guy was the John Wick series.
Yeah.
He was always just a really cool, calm-headed like side character. I really enjoyed that he actually got in on the action in Chapter 3 when they were defending the hotel. That was a really cool sequence. Lance Reddick also, people know him from like The Wire. They might have known him from like some of the bits he did on the Eric Andre show. And I also one thing strange enough I do remember him from that I didn't even realize he was the voice until much later. Was that he was one of the main characters in Destiny, the video game series. Yeah, and it's interesting because he's like kind of one of the mentor figures in that game. And after he passed away, there was a whole. I've not played Destiny in years, but it was amazing to see like kind of the community sort of come together because like because Destiny recently dropped like a story expansion that had some Zavala stuff in it. So that's really is Lance Reddick's probably last time playing as Zavala. Was that recent story expansion. So after he passed away, there's been all kinds of tributes paid to him. People would go up and visit him at the tower and sort of like pay their respects. So it's pretty sad. I know that like I've seen some of the, not saying that like I have like some sort of personal connection to any of this, but like it does get you, especially if you see some of the interviews with Keanu Reeves and the rest of the crew about Lance, because you could tell that he really meant a lot to all of them, and it's really sad to see basically a part of their family gone.
Yeah, that's definitely unfortunate. Definitely terrible time, and you hate to say that, but a great actor left behind like a great legacy and millions of fans that keep remembering him.
I'm gonna need to watch more of his stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'll make a conscious effort to look for more stuff that he's in.
Apparently, I was looking at his IMDb. I don't remember him, but apparently he was in. I think he was one of the scientists in Godzilla versus. Was it Godzilla versus Kong? I just moved away from his IMDb.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was Godzilla versus Kong. So he is in one of your favorite movies.
Damn, I didn't know that. I feel really bad that I didn't know.
I think he's like a very minor character, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know that controversial, but I do know that he played Albert Wesker in the Netflix Resident Evil show. And to be fair, from what I've heard of people in that show with all of its issues, he was weirdly enough, a shining spot in that
Hey,
series
that's
was him as Albert Wesker.
I used to, I took one acting class in college because I just need hours to fill, and my teacher, or he likes to be called our coach, uh, always said one of the best compliments you can ever get as an actor is, "Gosh, that show was terrible, but that one actor was good." Because that means that you did a good job. It wasn't like you can't say it was the script writing, it was the characters. That is just you did a good job. Everything else around you is bad. That means you specifically are good, and that's like the only way you can tell if you are. It's really because of you that something succeeds. So
Oh yeah. At the very least, we know that like even if the show itself was rough, at least we know that like Reddick was a great Wesker.
Yeah.
So we have that in the bag at least.
Okay, but getting back to John Wick. After some shenanigans with the hotel, you meet our.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Before we go any further, I'm sorry I had to hijack this.
No, you're fine.
Since this is our introduction scene to him, Skarsgård's character, the Marquis.
Oh yeah,
because he's introduced in the scene that where he executes the concierge.
Yes, Bill
Holy
Skarsgård.
shit. Skarsgård does a great job here for a character that you don't ever see fight in this whole film. That is all about just fighting. He does such a good job of giving a very intimidating presence with him. I mean, it's Skarsgård. He played Pennywise. Of course, he's going to do really good at that.
Yeah.
But he is like, what I like about him is he's like a role player on the surface, but on the surface, he plays by the rules. But once you get underneath, he's like, nah, I'm actually like a friggin' savage. I will do the most sadistic shit to get what I want. He does such a good job here in this film. I love to hate his character.
He is. I must say, he is definitely the love to hate kind of character. Because I remember, like, the second he started talking, I was like, God, I want to punch him. I want to just hit him so bad.
It's because you hate the French, Drew. That's I hate French people. I just want to punch him.
Just why are you always giving up, man? No, I'm joking. The French are great. Shout out to all my French audience, which is like 0%. But no, I think, God, he's so sleazy and just like, man, I work for the council. Man, I'm better than everyone. What? I'm just like, I want John to beat him up. I want John to just go and just like kick him in his teeth and just be and have the dog go attack him and then do whatever Kane does to people. And you hate him so much, but that's like exactly what he wants from you. Like you want him to just be despicable. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the, like I said, hypocrisy of this character. Like he's so much about like, what are we without rules and blah blah blah, but yet he's constantly like breaking them or finagling them. A little bit of a spoiler that we're jumping ahead to a little bit, but like for example, the duel part, he's like, cool, I'll duel you, John Wick, but I can elect the champion to do it. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, that's awful. And like the person he picked didn't even want to do it.
It's just like, dude, come on, I don't want to be here. He made when he made a deal with like Mr. Nobody. He's like, all right, great, we have a deal. I'm going to stab your hands now, and now I'll pull your hand the wrong way out of it, or like away from it. I'm like, oh my god, your hand should not function after that scene.
So every John Wick film, I feel like, I mean, it's all people getting messed up brutally, but there's always that one melee kind of thing that goes down. It's like, oh, this is hard to watch. Like in Chapter 2, it was John Wick killing the dude with a pencil. Hey, you killed the dude with a pencil. Fucking pencil. In Chapter 2, he stabbed the dude in the ear with a pencil. In Chapter 3, John like punches a knife into a guy's eyeball, and you get to see it. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And now in Chapter 4, it's Skarsgård with like the quote unquote deal with Mr. Nobody, which is like, jeez, dude, that might take the cake as like one of the most hard scenes to sit through in the series.
You know what it's similar to? I had the same feeling. Have you ever watched Pet Sematary, or do you know about Pet Sematary?
The original one?
The original one, yes.
A long time ago, yeah. It's been a bit
Do
though.
you remember that scene when there's that like little demonic kid and he like stabs the older dude in like his ankle, like his Achilles ankle? And you're
Oh
just like,
yeah,
I know what that pain is.
I remember.
Ah.
Yeah. No.
And
I
it's
actually remember that scene. That's
and
really
I think
rough.
it's one of those things because it's like there are so few times when movies attack certain body like every movie someone's gonna get punched or stabbed in like the gut or chest or like you hit him in the face. Like, okay, whatever. Like, a scrape on like your bicep is fine. But when it's your hand or your ankle, like I don't care how buff you are, there isn't much meat there. That just goes straight through. And I'm like, ugh. Also, I have no idea how that character continues to shoot after that because getting stabbed, like, unless he's
Moving
Wolverine,
on.
he should not. That hand should not
Moving on.
function.
He had a band-aid. He had a band-aid on it.
Oh, okay,
But
okay,
he's all good.
sure. Yeah, if Donnie Yen's
That's all
character
you
just
need.
put a band-aid over his eyes, he could see again. Yeah, that's how that works in these movies.
Oh god.
God, that scene is okay, but yeah, that's he's a great villain for this, and I also like how throughout the movie they're constantly like, okay, look, John, you can't just kill him because then he'll just be replaced, and that kind of like tells the audience like, okay, if we're gonna do this, we can't just kill him because then our next move or whatever our next villain is will just feel like the same guy, like we need to like break we need to figure out how to break the trope and like break the cycle. And
Yeah, I
think
do appreciate
yeah.
basically the mentality was like, hey, if you're gonna kill this guy, at least make it worth something. Winston's like, oh, you can finally get the high table off your back and blah blah blah, make that one of your demands. And then Winston, being his typical self, is like, and I get a new hotel out
Yeah.
of it. And it's like, ooh.
it, it is funny, and I do like John is like very like he's incredible. He's intelligent in ways of like hurting and like fighting people, but he's like low key kind of an idiot because he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go shoot him. Okay, what about everyone else? I'm gonna shoot them too. It's kind of what I do, Winston. Like, what are you talking about? And it's like, John, okay, take a breath. Let's think about this. There aren't that many bullets in the world. And he's like, you'll want to bet? And he's like, okay, I'm not saying that you can't, but there's an easier way to do this. And I
mean,
just
he
love that
did
John's
go, like,
mentality is just like, oh, gun.
Gun always works.
Gun
I mean,
all.
he did like, I mean, he did end up taking down like half of New York's hitman population.
I'm not saying, John's like, I've done it once before. I'll do it again. At a certain point, the couch is just like, okay, it is costing us so much manpower and money killing him. Let's just let him be. Let's just let him be. Is I think John's plan. But continuing back with the next kind of big fight scene in the movie, it's in this the Japan Continental, I forgot what it's called, and
It's in, I think it's in Hokkaido is where they're set up.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it is the Hokkaido like Continental.
Yeah, and I like that in this one, you finally get a big fight scene of two big factions. That's at the start not John Wick. You kind of see regular grunts fighting regular grunts, and that's interesting. It changes it up a little bit. But we're still reintroduced to the heavily armored people that were introduced in 3, and then also I like that other people have these bulletproof suits that John uses, and I like that the way that they shield themselves out of context is really kind of funny. That they just take their jackets and kind of hide their head under it, like if you can't see me, you can't hurt me. But it kind of just works in this world. And this is also where we'll talk about one of the other new characters to the franchise. The legendary Donnie Yen is introduced as Kane, the not Daredevil of this world. He's this blind assassin who is kind of more just forced to be here against his will. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Kane?
He does a really good job. I feel I just want to make sure because it's happened twice now. He's not actually blind in real life, right?
No, he is not actually blind. Donnie
Okay,
Yen can
'cause
see perfectly fine.
okay, because it's just like, all right, this is the second time they cast you as a blind badass, which is cool. It's just interesting because, in case people don't know, about like 8 years ago, he also played as Chirrut in
Yeah.
Rogue One, who was a blind, force-sensitive, like monk kind of dude.
No,
he was really cool there.
Donnie Yen can see perfectly fine. I guess he is getting he started getting typecasted nowadays, but yeah, for
It's
those
just
who
like, oh, that thing you did in Star Wars, awesome. Let's just do it again.
like, I guess. Donnie Yen's such an impressive actor. He can do it with his eyes closed. Is the motto.
I like him. I like, especially since one thing I'm going to say is I think another strength to this film is that of the new side characters, because it feels like every John Wick film kind of cycles in like a new cast of side characters. So like in the second one, you had like Cassius and the girl who played Batwoman. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name.
The
you
deaf
got
girl.
that. Yeah. And then in the third film, you got Halle Berry, who I mean, she kicked ass in that film too.
Yeah.
But here, like, I think this is my favorite cast of like new side characters being introduced, and I think they do a phenomenal job, especially Donnie Yen's character, Kane. Kane is such a badass. Kane uses a cane sword, which is actually really neat.
Yeah.
I also like the little things that they do to like. It feels like he's not just. I think it's a tribute to Donnie Yen's like physical acting does a really good job where it's not just like, oh, they say he's blind, but he practically moves like a normal person. You still see him kind of like stumble around a bit, has to feel things out, but it's very convincing that like he is like a blind character, and I think he does a great job. And the smart ways of like, okay, how would Donnie Yen deal with like a gunfight and stuff like that? It's like, well, it's him responding a lot to like gunshots and stuff like that, and also he sets up this really cool little like
doorbells,
alarm trap. Like from. I remember I was talking with some buddies. It's just like, oh yeah, it's like the little like proximity alarms from Siege. He's just like setting them up in areas so that he knows where they're entering. His fight scenes are so cool. Yeah. I really like Kane. I like the relationship with Wick especially since I mean it's a running theme where like Wick always ends up fighting one of his old friends from like back in the day. Yeah. But it really does feel like you get like more out of it. There's a really good scene where they're in the church and they're talking about like, is there an afterlife for both of them? And if there is, does it matter for either? Because both of them are going in their both their minds, even if there is or isn't an afterlife, both of them are going to hell.
Like look at what we've done in the past, just 2 days alone. Yeah.
And I like that because it's like, and it does show an interesting contrast where John is basically fighting for the memory of someone that has died. Like he, like basically this life has taken away his chance to grieve for his loved one, his wife. Yeah. And then for Donnie Yen's character, he's like, I'm fighting for the one thing that's good in this world that I gave, and that's his daughter. Yeah. And so like,
I fight for a person that's still alive.
Yeah. So I think they did a great job with Donnie Yen's character. And it's something I think we'll have to get into a little bit in the end. But like, I could totally see if they're planning to go beyond just John, in terms of like characters to focus on, like maybe give them their own film or series. I could totally see Donnie Yen getting his own movie.
I mean, if you're gonna give the Wick series to anyone, it would be the Ip Man himself. You know, Donnie Yen. He's a film legend, like especially like in martial arts movies and stuff. For those who don't know, for those who don't know IP Man, he's in like 4 of those movies, and who don't know him in real life, that is the guy that trained Bruce Lee. And Donnie Yen does a fantastic job in that. But what I like about Kane's character is a couple things. One, in the first time Kane and Wick fight each other, like John's like, oh, so you're the new me. Like it's kind of like he even said like they gave you my old name, like my station. He's like, yeah, I guess. And like he's just kind of like, I don't want to do this. I'm just here. And you really get that because in that like doorbell like fights like in that first fight scene where they're invading the Continental, you see him just kind of sitting there eating noodles before he's like basically ordered like go help, and he never kills anyone. He only like hits them with the blunt side of the cane and just knocks them out. Like he doesn't kill any of the other workers because he really only wants to just be there, kill John, and then leave. And that's always like been interesting to me. Of just like he is very much just trying to just get a paycheck, just do the best he can for his daughter, and then just leave. Like he doesn't want to cause more problems. He's very much like, I'm just trying. But yeah, to back up what you said, I know I compared him to Daredevil, but I do like that. No, I could believe that this man is actually blind. Like he doesn't have like superpowers. You never feel like, oh, he has superhuman hearing or like sense of smell or whatever. It's kind of like, no, it's a normal blind man with very creative ways of, getting rid of people, and that's just kind of how he goes through his work. Is he just kind of has to outsmart everyone.
Yeah, I mean, he turns basically what would be perceived as like a weakness into his strength. Like like his fight scene is phenomenal. Like his fight scenes throughout, like just watching him, how he fights and how you see physically without them telling you deliberately how he adapts to a situation. It's so cool. Very, very smart, filmmaking there.
And I think probably like one of my favorite scenes with him is that it's the final fight of that part of the movie, that scene of he gets and meets I will mispronounce this terribly, but Shimazu? Is that how you say his character's name?
I think you're right. I'm not entirely sure.
He meets the the hotel the manager, and
right,
and they're old friends, and it's kind of clear that like Kane can win this fight much faster, and multiple times like Slash and tells like, okay, I've won, stop, and he's like, no, I'm not stopping. Like I know what this part is in the movie. I have to. And multiple times he's like, I don't want to kill you. You're gonna make me do it. I don't like this. And even like the daughter watches this and just like trying to like, Dad, stop. And he's like, no, I'm going. Like, so you gonna get the sense of just like, yeah, even though like I really like this character up until then, I don't blame Kane for killing him because he really was, by all intents and purposes,
kind of backed into a corner.
Yeah, he really was asking to get stabbed. Like he almost ran into the sword himself.
Yeah, like you could tell that Kane. I feel like it's something you point out, and I don't think I'd registered that in my head, but now I kind of see it. Is Kane is trying to like get through this as little bloodshed as he can because he's like, man, I try to walk away from this life. This was the whole point, and it's just like I'm just here to do my job and get out. Like. No more than is necessary. But it's like that's the problem with this life. It just keeps dragging you further and further into it, and it's just like whether you want it or not, you will be forced to turn on the people you care about.
It's like there is one person that I want to kill here, and I'm still kind of even on the fence about that one. Everyone else just get out of the way, please. And he's just trying.
But yeah, that whole I'm sorry, I said Hokkaido. It's Osaka. I'm just remembering now. It's actually Osaka. The Osaka hotel sequence though is fantastic throughout though. Like just as sort of a really good real meaty action sequence. Man, they do such a good job there.
Yeah. The last kind of part I'll bring up I'll say two things. One, it's cool watching John Wick fight with nunchucks.
Yes.
As a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, so I love that. The last thing I'll bring up is the other character that's introduced and kind of like her story is kicked off is, as I said, the hotel manager's daughter, and I am immediately lost her name. But this kind of starts her character arc that we'll see in future movies, and we'll talk about it pretty much at the very, very end. Wow. Okay. Wow. I really should remember. Is her name really? Yeah, her name's Akira, as in like the anime. I wonder if that has to be a reference.
Yeah.
That has to be.
It probably is.
It has to be. But yeah, her character is introduced and kind of that journey is started basically immediately. Um, so but that'll be something that we kind of talk about towards the end, unless you have, and any notes about Akira and her short fight scene with the bow.
Once again, I think one of the cool things about this action sequence in total, like not really talking about Akira herself, but the fact that it's all physical, so it is actually her getting down there, like doing all the like sort of like leg sweeps and like using the bow to fight, and all the people falling around. It's so cool. Like I think the use of practical effects here does a really good job on selling all of the action. I mean, it's a staple of John Wick. It just, I don't know why, every time I watch a John Wick film, I'm still surprised, where it's like, no, that's not CGI. That's an actual dude being thrown down a set of escalators.
Yep, that's... that guy is actually in real pain. Because, there are a few other movies that would do that. Like, most of the time it would be like, yeah, let's, green screen this and throw him down, and then... Meanwhile, John Wick just kind of takes civil form. It's like, no, let's just throw him down the actual stairs. It's like he'll tuck and roll. He'll be fine.
It's kind of like the way I kind of describe these films at this point now is that they are basically like Buster Keaton films.
Yeah.
There is just like, if it wasn't for the super serious tone, it's almost like super laughable about how much insane stunts that they pull off. And it is basically real people throwing their real bodies at like getting hit by cars, going downstairs, all this stuff. And you can feel the energy that they're all having a fun time with it. Like, it's kind of like you're a kid and you're like play fighting with your friends. It's like, oh, I use a sword to stab you, and I do like big Sparta kicks or whatever. Yeah. They're doing the same thing, but it's adults and they're getting paid to do it. It's really fun.
Gosh, I would love to be on a set. Like, I don't even care if I'm one of the henchman that gets thrown down the escalator. I would love to be one of these guys. They're having a blast. But yeah, continuing with the story, and we won't talk about every single detail, but after this, you kind of get this at one moment, and it's probably like one of the few moments in the series. You kind of start to get I guess I did skip out on one. The last of the new characters that was brought up. It'd be important. I've referenced him before, but Mr. Nobody. He's the one that's like, I need John to be worth more money, which again, how? And he's also the one with like kind of the more like old school, like unconventional type weapons, and a dog. So that's fun.
He's kind of like a cowboy. Uses sometimes like a revolver. Uses a lever action rifle and stuff like that. He's deliberately called a tracker, I think, at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I like his character. He's fun.
He's definitely a fun one.
How about you give your thoughts on him first, though, Drew?
I enjoyed him. I thought like he's kind of like this young, like kind of almost like in over his head type character that brings like a different type of energy to the scene. I love that like when you're first introduced, he's like, it's my emotional support animal. It's like, can't I was like, no, I'm his emotional support animal. And I like that, the John Wick series has always been about good boys and the good doggos, and I like that, we have a character that's his whole thing, is that he brings his dog with him on these assassinations, and it just kind of works, and that just kind of carries the theme of, I guess, dogs. I don't know how else to bring it, but just implementing dogs.
Like it's a sort of like almost like it's sort of like a forgiveness thing that they have to do for like killing off the dog in the first film. It's just like, all right, ever since then, it's all about protecting the good boys and girls. Protect all dogs.
Everyone protects the towards the end where John Wick like saves this guy's like dog. He's like, wow, you actually care about me, and I almost want John to be like, no, I'm just a big dog person. Like, and he just shoots him. He's like, I appreciate.
I do appreciate that they do play into that, where it's like yeah, John still like kind of cares about dogs. It reminds me of the third film
Yeah.
where they're meeting with like one of the like not elders, but it's like one of the high table people, and they like in a show of strength, he's like, all right, I'm gonna shoot Halle Berry's dog, and then she's like getting pissed off and she's about to like shoot everybody in there, and then John's like, don't. And I remember some people being like, John, of all the people of you to say don't because someone got their dog shot, you massacred half of New York because your dog got killed.
You have no footing here. Like,
but to be fair, they are self-aware because in that scene, he's immediately after he's like, I get it. He's like, yeah, you do.
He's like, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just like, Jesus, John. But no, I think he's cool, and he kind of adds a contrast to a lot of these other like Donnie Yen and John have this character of like they're kind of older dudes, and they're like, I'm getting too old for this type of shit, and meanwhile he's like a much younger person of just like, I haven't been in this game long enough, but like long enough where I don't want to be here anymore. Like I'm just trying to make some money and get my way out of it. Yeah, he's the one that's trying to buy his way out.
Yeah. One thing I kind of want to build on that point is he kind of, because of his young age, it seems like he had, and just his general attitude, he does not have any respect for this underworld, which I kind of like. Yeah. Because he doesn't like everybody else, he doesn't act that super professional. He doesn't dress up in a suit. He knows this world. He knows how to navigate it, but he's like, yeah, I'm not going to play by your guys' rules because where has it gotten all of you?
Yeah. He is the only one that like, he never tries to he never puts the drip on. He always just kind of wears his own style.
He takes business casual very seriously. He's just like, I am going full casual. No business, just casual.
It's like, I will sleep in these clothes and then immediately walk out and be comfortable outside. Fuck y'all, it's cold out. We are in Russia.
We are here to kill people. I am not here to look that great. Yeah. I am just here to just get a job done.
Well, I did mention the drip. I do want to point out that these men do be styling out there. I mean, that's been a staple of the John Wick series. These dudes do be looking clean. Like, especially John and Kane, like their matching suits, they do be looking cool. I just want to point that out. The suit's a good look.
All of Alex Skarsgård's suits, like he goes through like 5 different suits by the end of this film.
Yeah,
all of them look awesome.
He looks good. One of the key, very popular saying is, it doesn't matter what man you are, what body type you are. No man will look bad in a suit, and that like a suit is literally designed to make someone look better and cooler. So definitely points out in this film. These men look styling, except for Mr. Nobody. He's fuck society, fuck all that. But
he's a rebel. I like that.
He's a rebel. He's a rebel with a dog. So that's fun. But yeah, now after that kind of big fight scene, everyone takes a breath. And we get a little bit more kind of background into John's history. You know, we kind of meet his quote unquote family, like his Italian mob family who almost hang him.
Well, more like German.
Yeah, I guess German. I couldn't tell. Because at first I was like, is it Russian?
Well, here's the thing. It might be Russian, but they're in Berlin. So it's like, it makes it more difficult.
I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I just didn't. But maybe. I don't know. But, you know, they seem cool, and you kind of get to see more of just, like, how this weird found family kind of works, and how it's just kind of like a very, like, hey, we'll forgive you as long as you kill the right person. Like, it's an interesting dynamic. What are your thoughts on, learn more about John's history?
I think it's nice. I think it's cool to see where it's just like, well, how does John get involved with like all these like high society people? It's like, well, he had to have a family sponsor him, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's a nice way of sort of explaining it. There's not really much I can add to it, but I do like that they do well, not show, rather more like remind you that like, hey, John does have like a whole like history with all of these people.
Yeah.
There's a reason why like he's so important in this world.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I don't have much to say about it. It's just like, oh, it's cool that they're like keeping with the theme of this. And then we kind of get to. Did you have something else? Sorry.
The club scene.
Yeah, the club scene.
I'm personally excited for this because I really like this little side villain that they
Yeah,
have.
I'm about to say this almost it basically is a side quest that John's like you gotta go kill this dude and then we'll let you go. And I'll just let you go off on John's little side quest here.
Basically,
to kill her.
He has to kill. I can't remember his name. I know the actor's name. His name is Scott Adkins. I think he's a well-renowned like kind of stuntman. He's done stuff with like. I think one of the scenes he's most well known for is a film called Bloodsport, where he did like a really awesome sort of like CQC fight with Michael J. White.
Yeah.
But either way, he's a well-renowned, very well-known like stunt actor. Dude in real life is like shredded to the toes. Like he's fucking ripped.
Yeah.
Here they put him in a fat suit and give him a gap tooth. Let me say, the way he talks, oh god, it's so hard to replace him. He's like always like chuckling, oh, hello, Mr. Weak.
Mr. Weak.
He is hamming it up, but he is such a delight the whole time. I love the way he like plays with the cards, the fact that of course he cheats. But I also like the fact that even though he's a dude in a fat suit running away from John, when he has to throw hands with him, he can throw hands with them. I like that.
I was also very surprised. I thought it would be like he's just gonna be like running and stumbling like away from like John as he
kind
chases
of like
him.
the first movie with the kid that John was after because he killed his dog.
I thought it would be like that because he talked a big game before then. But no, like he stands up like, all right, fisticuffs, and I think even John's a little surprised, like, oh shit, I just got roundhouse kicked by this dude. What the hell?
This dude has a 35-year lifespan because of obesity, but he is still just roundhouse kicking shit out of John.
He's very like Kingpin, like where it's like if you ever read the comics, like Kingpin actually only has like 5% fat on him. All of that like blubber is muscle, and you're just like, what the fuck is this? Like he throws John like he weighs nothing, and it's really fun. I like his introduction and like the scene before that where he's like, we got the man trying to kill his way out, John. We got the man trying to buy his way out. And then what was the I forget what was Dottie like, was it earn his way out or I forget.
Yeah, it was like fight or something his way out, but god. I know what you mean though. Like he does a really cool job of breaking down sort of each character's like deal.
And I do like that he's like, the house always wins. And they all kind of like, I feel like they all kind of knew that beforehand. It's like, yeah, obviously we're gonna have to beat you up after this card game. And John just fucking almost takes his ear off of the playing card. I thought that was just gonna go straight in his eye and kill him. I thought John was gonna kill him with a playing card for a moment.
Oh yeah.
But
no, I get what you mean, but like it is kind of cool. One of my favorite sequences is like, although they're all villains, there are not villains. Although they're all like kind of opposing each other in a sense, I do enjoy every time they're like, all right, this is the part where we got to team up, guys.
Yeah,
like I do like that.
It's fun. It's a fun fight, and I also like how even though like guns are firing and like people are getting beat up, this nightclub doesn't really stop partying. It's kind of it's a contrast to the American like the second like guns start, everyone like crowds away like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. This Berlin's like, nah, it's just Tuesday. Like what's wrong? Keep the music. Like they only leave because the cops show up. Really, like they don't. They're not worried that like a man got stabbed in front of them.
It's the rave, man. Like you can't just like once you're in it, you just can't stop.
The rave don't stop for no one. Not even John could stop the rave. I was like, damn, this place is. I want to go and party there. This place looks cool. There's a chance I get accidentally shot because of the someone missed, but I feel like it's worth it altogether.
But I will say though, the thing that really got me with this scene was how they managed to take out Scott Adkins' character.
Yeah.
Like he gets basically all this fighting. John stabs him, shoots him, all this stuff, and he's still kicking. The part where he like sort of kicks him off like the railing and he lands on the stairs right on his head. It's like, oh my god, dude. He is dead.
It's like, that's a lot of weight moving very fast. Landing all on one spot. I was like, oh my god. That was another like really brutal moment.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
It was great. God. He even kind of like bounced up a little like after it was like, oh god.
Yeah, no. That was something.
That was a fun fight. It was a good little side quest to get it. And that kind of leads to everyone goes back or retreats, gets the last of the thing. John makes a deal with the bad guy. And the next kind of fight scene, after, like we talked about, some character moments. John finally talks with the main guy and, makes the deal and talks to King. Yeah, whatever, great character building, whatever. No, we've talked about that. What then follows, and the main reason I think so many of us like this movie so much, is a good, basically like 45-minute of just back-to-back fight scenes. Like, no BS, no nothing. It's just, I think it's, okay, so it starts with the cars, and then goes to the traffic, and then goes into the building, and then the stairs, and the stairs again. And so essentially, depending on how you count it, like 4 or 5 fight scenes all in a row, and like very long, elaborate fight scenes until we get to...
And a really cool musical cue to kick it all off. Like,
yes.
Remember, it's the part where like they're setting up the duel. Obviously, Skarsgård's character is going to cheat, so he's going to try to off him the night before the duel actually starts. Yeah. So he like basically puts out this massive hit, like $20 million on like John's head, and they do this like really cool sequence where they have like the like DJ lady get on there and start talking about it, and then she fucking cues it with like Nowhere to Run, the fucking song. It's like, oh man, this is awesome.
This is a great
cool musical cue.
But like, oh my, like we'll try to break it down one fight scene at a time. We'll probably go into other. The first one with just the cars of just like he just walks in the street and everyone turns around. He's like, all right, it's New York Part 2. Let's get this done with. With his new fancy pistol. The what do they call it? The Pit Viper.
Yeah,
the Pit
is what they call it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he uses it to stab someone at one point, which is cool. But he just immediately like kills a bunch of dudes, gets in a car, runs over like 3 people, and drives off into. I'd say I know it's not even one of my favorite fight scenes because the next 2 after are definitely my favorite fight scenes. But he goes into that I forget what it's called, but that monument in Berlin where it's the huge traffic circle.
No, they're in Paris now.
Oh yeah, forgot they switch around these places like it's like they could teleport. But that big monument in Paris, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's the wall.
Yeah, it's like the big circle drive. It's pretty famous. People get messed up here, man.
Bro. He gets out of that car and is having this fight scene, and people get ragdolled on these cars. And the funniest part to me is there are some times when they're hit, and the people driving the cars, which are not like assassins, by the way, these are just random citizens doing their day-to-day affairs. Some of them don't even stop. No one stops to like, oh, there's a gunfight. Let me get off this like intersection or like stop the car. They just run these people over, and some of them just keep going after the fact.
What I love about it is like all I can imagine is you're just the driver and then you're just going about your night and then all of a sudden you hit a guy and you're like, oh my god, I think I killed that person, it's gonna be so bad, and then you see freaking Keanu Reeves comes out and just shoots that guy you just hit on the ground. You're like, okay, never mind,
I guess I didn't kill him.
It's just like, oh my god.
I just imagine like someone in a car like, life is like a hurricane here in boom 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 boom. Is that a dude? Whatever. Life is like a hurricane. They're just like going like, not my problem anymore.
No, that sequence is cool. Apparently, during that sequence, the scene where John is in his car and he does like a donut around that group of dudes and shooting out of it, you would think like, oh, that's CGI. That wasn't. That was an actual stunt that Keanu did, which is just added on to the other like just crazy ass shit that just happens in this movie.
Yeah, just like it's such a, and I almost forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that happened. And in any other movie, that'd be like, oh, the big moment. That like I'm pretty sure James Bond does a similar thing, except it's a Gatling gun in the front of his car, and that's like kind of the big moment in the fight scene. Here, it's just something that happened. Like it's like kind of in the middle of the first one, and then they go to the next one. Like it's just a moment, real quick, and they're like, all right, move along. Like, they don't hark on it. He doesn't say some cool one-liner after. He just, like, does this incredibly impressive stunt, incredibly impressive feat, and it's like, all right, next scene, go, 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 go. We got to make it, like, you really feel like, okay, we are on a time limit now. We got to go. We got bodies to put on the board.
There's a lot of parts that could have been a finale in most movies here, and it's just like, nah, babe, we're just warming up.
Yeah, we are moving. But God, I love that car. Like every time someone got hit, it looked like that hurt, because that probably did hurt in real life. Even John gets hit by a car at one point, and just kind of like, all right.
To be fair, John gets hit by a car in like every movie.
He does.
I'm pretty sure you could have like a whole counter with it. How is this man not dead?
I don't know. How is he able to walk, man? His back, because he always takes it with his back. And like, as someone who like, my job is like a work outside and like carry a camera around, my back hurts just from doing that. And how the heck does he? I was actually just walk up like, all right, whatever. It's Wednesday. Next event.
Yeah, man, just walk it off.
Just walk it off.
Also, just I think I forgot to mention, especially with like so many of these actors, like a bit they're higher up there in age, because like I think Donnie Yen's a little bit older too.
Donnie Yen is
like
very old.
Yeah, he's like in his like 50s or something like that, right?
Yeah, both.
John is sorry, not John, Keanu. Sorry, Keanu Reeves is also in the same situation.
Yeah.
Last film, Halle Berry also pushing 50. They do such good work here, and and even though they're older, they're still hanging in there, and I do appreciate that. I get it, like they're doing a lot of their own stunts, and it really adds to the whole experience of this film,
because you never have to cut away or hide camera angles when it's just like, no, that's my real actor getting run over by a car. Like, that's him.
Yeah.
So like I don't have to like, it makes camera work easy. Makes everyone else nervous, but you just hit them with an actual car, and that's the simplest way to do it.
Yeah, but I find it like so impressive.
Oh, it is very talented and makes it like very entertaining to watch. No, that like traffic scene goes on for a good minute. Like it is, they do that for like 5 minutes out of this like whole sequence, and like. But you never get tired of it. You're on that scene and they do everything with that environment as you would want. Like, you see people getting hit. You see doors getting smacked. You see John using cars as cover to do, and everything that like could possibly done in that like kind of heavy traffic environment is done before they move on to the next one. You never feel like, oh, they should have been there a little moment longer, or they should have. Or like, this felt like this kind of dragged on. It always kind of feels like it's very purposely paced, and you never get like bored of it.
Yeah.
So the next kind of area after they get into big traffic is what many people have called they go into this mansion, what many people have called the dragon fire sequence, which probably is one of my favorite like visually sequence because it's very and they've said it wasn't based off Hotline Miami. It was based off something else. But
I remember this. I
yes,
think it was a Hong Kong Massacre, which is a game very much of that genre.
It's a very similar type of thing. But earlier in this, they show a henchman. It's like, oh, I got this shotgun that like sets people on fire after you shoot him. And he's like, oh, that's great. That'll work well against him. And immediately you're seeing that, just like that's gonna be used against you immediately. Like that's gonna fuck you up so bad. And it is such a cool sequence watching these bullets and just people light up in flames. It's so like the roof is completely taken off, and just like him walking through hallways taking people out with this shotgun. It is visual just bliss, and it's so cool. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the dragon fire sequence?
This is my definitely. I don't know if there's much more I can add to it than you said, but I will say this is my favorite action sequence in the film.
Yeah,
it is so cool. It's cool that it's inspired by a video game, but I just love the top-down view. It's like a whole other take on the whole, like, you know, we've always had past 10 years we've had this really, especially even though it was invented long before, this big craze around the one shot. This is such a creative use of that, of like the one shot. It's like, all right, one shot, but it's top down and you get to see everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this is awesome, dude.
There's no like, oh, you have to peek around corners. There's no, you get the God's perspective. You see the enemy like beyond the corner. And basically John's like omnipotence on how he takes out this world. And it's so cool. It's the most video gamey like section. And I also imagine that is so difficult to shoot because first of all, you have to build a set and then take the roof off. And then also like there is no way for you to hide like, you know, sound equipment or like do that take multiple. Like it's a one shot of this. You have to do that whole mansion sequence in one go. And like no one can mess up or else you got to do it again. I would love to see like the behind the scenes on that and like how they choreograph that. I'm sure there's like a bunch of Blu-rays on it, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that'll be awesome. And one last thing I want to add to it because I got to get moving on this, but one of my favorite like kind of not running gags, but one of the jokes they managed to actually do that works really well here is one of the guards get caught on fire, so you see him run off to the room, and it's still like the one shot take, and he's just like, I'm on fire, runs off, and then he runs back into the room. He's like, I'm still on fire.
I forget about it. He's like, oh god, I'm still burning. And John shoots him again. I was like, I don't think the Lord took him out.
That part fucking got me. It was so good.
There are moments in this where it's like, I don't think it's supposed to be like funny, but it's really funny.
I think a little bit. I think my personal opinion. I think it's like I think they know that like we're having a bit of fun here. And it's like, yes, we're taking this mostly serious, but there's a couple of parts you can laugh at. A couple of bad guys get ripped apart.
And that kind of leads to like the final big fight scene of the movie because after this it's a bit more like personal. But the last one is the staircase fight, and he makes his way up this comically large staircase, taking out everyone. And like he meets like one of like the main henchmen at the top, and the main henchman kicks him down. And I think, oh, he's just gonna go down to the next level, but no, he falls past that, and then the next level he falls past that, and at a certain point, just like, God damn it, man, how many stairs? And he goes all the way down to the very first step.
I will say this. I checked that out with the scene. 30 seconds. A full, uncut 30 seconds of Keanu Reeves flopping down a staircase. It is insane.
It's so fucking funny.
It was one of those moments where we were laughing a little bit at first, but as it kept as it kept going on, the audience was howling
Bro,
by the end of it.
after the first like 10 seconds, I'm like, how fucking many stairs is he gonna fall down? And he just kept going, and I couldn't help it. I was, oh, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in a movie. It's just man, it's the most slapstick Three Stooges joke I've ever seen. I'm just like, god damn, how many stairs is this? And he just keep falling, and then Cade is at the end, just like, come on, man, we gotta get going, we gotta make it. And John's like, fuck stairs, man. Fuck that.
I do appreciate Kane is like, he could have easily just like let this happen to John and just like, it'd be over, it'd be done with. But he's like, nah, I still respect this man. I'm gonna help him get through this shit. And it's just like, that's such a fucking awesome.
At a certain point, you're John. You're just like, Kane, just let me be at the bottom of the stairs, please.
It's like, John, you gotta get up. You're gonna be late. It's like, God,
fuck off.
That's not enough.
It's that like Loki meme of like I might try to edit that later, but it's like that Loki scene where like, I've been falling for 30 minutes, but it's John's face, like, I've been falling downstairs for 30 minutes.
Oh god.
Oh, it's so good. But then it does lead to like a very like, cool moment where you get your kind of trio of Kane, John, and Mr. Nobody, and the dog. The dog's there. The dog attacks the main henchman's balls, which is fun.
I will say this much: this film has integrated a new fear of mine into me, which is if you're ever walking down like a dark alley or something, and then in the distance you just hear a man yell "nuts." I think I would be terrified.
Dude, I'd rather fight John Wick twice than ever fight Mr. Nobody's dog and he go nuts. I'm like, oh my god, no. No.
It's just like, you're done.
Bro, tell him just kill. Just say neck. Just say arm. Just say any other body part, please. Why?
He's like, please, just shoot me.
It's like, I get that he like, and this is the guy that almost shot his dog, so I guess he deserves it. God damn it, he does that to a different person like earlier in the film. Like, what did that man do to deserve this punishment? This ungodly punishment.
Oh god.
Man. And I like that. Like Mr. Nobody's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna grab a beer. Just sit down and watch this. Like, I'm done. My dog just ate someone's nuts off. I'm just gonna let the old guys finish this.
Let them do the stupid duel.
Let them do the stupid duel. I don't care anymore. But yeah, that's a fun moment. That's a very fun moment. But after all the steps and all the dogs eating nuts off, it finally leads to the big duel, where they walk away 10 paces and shoot at each other. And it's a pretty cool, like, character moment of, you don't want either of these guys to win, but you're kind of like, well, they do have to shoot holes into each other.
Yeah, I was almost convinced at this point, like, this might be the part where, like, Donnie Yen was going to go.
Yeah.
Especially since, like, maybe it's just me, but even I felt like both of them had the capacity to kill the other the whole time, but it was like, I feel like there was like restraint just because they were like, neither wanted to kill the other, so they were purposely like making non-lethal shots.
I was constantly waiting for them to go like 3, 2, 1, fire, and then Donnie Yen shoots Snarsgard, and then the council guy's like, what the? And then John shoots the council guy, and you're like, yeah, no, we're not doing this.
I was thinking, like, is there a part they're just gonna break the rules and just start going off on everybody else?
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. I thought it would have been like I guess we're making a John Wick 5, and then you just shoot the other guys.
Yeah,
but that's not what happening. It is kind of like immediately when they got like the step closer and John didn't fire, I was like, oh, I get how this is gonna work. Like, freaking.
Well, the fun part is like right before the last part when they're giving the last bullet to John, to both sides really. Winston tells him, it's like, just kill him.
Just kill
him. Just like, And I was thinking about, and I remember watching. It's like, oh, does he mean? And then like, yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah. I thought it was gonna. Yeah, I thought it was gonna like everyone sees the scene and like, oh, he thinks talking about Donnie Yen. It's like, no, he means Snarsgard's character, which I don't remember his actual like his character's name, but it's Snarsgard.
He doesn't have a name. He's just called the Marquis.
The Marquis, yeah, that's what they always call him.
But I love how he goes out because it's such hubris where like Donnie Yen does all the work and he's like, right before it's like over, he's like, I claim the coup de grace. It's like, of course you do, you bastard.
It's like, it's like I want to be the man that kills John Wick. I gotta like have my glory. I gotta have my villain moment. And it's just like, you idiot. Like, what? It's like he didn't shoot and his head get taken off.
Yeah, John didn't wait a second. He just blasted him.
You know, okay, keep it with John Wick. He doesn't let like the villain get a monologue or get a second chance. When he has a shot on the villain, he will shoot the villain.
Guess what? It's within the rules. The duel was between John and the Marquis. He stepped in with the gun.
Yeah.
He claimed the coup de grace.
And the other guy's like, well, all right, you're good now. We're cool.
Before that though, I do like, and then he says like, all right, you're cool. You're now absolved from like the high table. And then like I love Mr. Nobody's reaction. It's like, oh, that's fucking good.
He's watching the movie with us now. He's digging it too. He's like, that was cool, right? I'm like, yeah, Mr. Nobody was cool.
I love that part. That was so good.
Yeah. But that leads us to the big finale of this, and you've been wanting to talk about the big finale, the plot twist at the very end of the movie. I'll let you take it away. What happens to John after taking 2 bullets to the chest, basically? Or I guess one to the side, one to the shoulder.
When you get shot multiple times, not to mention everything else that happened that night, John is not feeling that great. He's absolved by the high table, so they're like promising, like, "Hey, we're gonna stop coming after you." Donnie Yen, his daughter, is no longer in danger. He fulfilled his duty to the Marquis, technically. And then John kind of has a moment where he sits on the stairs, thinks about his wife, and then collapses. And then it cuts to him with Winston and I'm sorry, I think his name is the Rat King, Lawrence Fishburne's character.
It's something
over. Yeah, watching over John's grave next to his wife, suggesting, and that's how the movie ends. It suggests that John Wick has died. Here's the thing: does anyone actually fucking believe this shit?
No. I'm watching the movie. I'm like, all right. So I know 5's already in development. Bullshit. There's no way.
Yeah, but what I like to take away from this is, like, you're right. Like, this is definitely not the end of John Wick. But what I will say is, I think if for some reason they couldn't continue forward with the series, this would not be a bad place to end it. It's like, all right, yeah, John Wick died. But I believe there's going to be more. One, the series makes a ton of money. And despite his age, Keanu is showing no signs of slowing down.
I'm about to say, he loves making these.
It's because, like, like how everybody would like riff on Adam Sandler, where basically he'd make shitty comedy movies just so he could hang out with his friends and go to exotic places.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the equivalent of that, but it's for Keanu Reeves, where he's just like, I just want a really cool project just to work on with my friends, and we get to go to Paris and Berlin. But the big difference is he makes like a really fun movie out of it too. Yeah. Not shit on Adam Sandler. I would probably do the exact same thing.
I'm about to say, I would also do the same thing as Adam Sandler, because it's less effort.
But no, like, I feel like there's going to be a sequel, and since the second film, I feel like the series has been on a trajectory. This series will not end until John Wick kills the high table.
Yeah,
that's what it's always building up to. And it's funny to me that we've now had 4 really good movies, especially this one, dive really heavy into the lore of it. We've still not met the high table yet. There's still like a mysterious force out there that we've not seen, and I'm really excited for this. So I'm happy. I'm okay if things end here, but I would be willing to bet money that this is not the end of John Wick.
No, I could not imagine that. Like I also like this. I like this series and I like this ending. I'm like, if it ended here, I'd be happy with it, but there's no way. There's no way that like they would just constantly talk about like the high table and this mysterious force and then never show it to us and then never like go to them. So no, this series doesn't end until John finds the high table and one by one takes them out.
As he promised from the start,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill everyone.
So
that's the whole point of this film.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that what it does open up is maybe they could take a break, before they get right into John Wick 5. But I mean, later this year, we're getting The Continental, which is a prequel series set during the 1970s. It looks like we're also getting a view of a very young Winston during this time. I'm actually excited. I kind of want to check out that television series. I'm not going to lie. If you haven't seen the trailer for it, I do recommend checking it out. I also think that it's something that I think has been said before, but I'll say it again. They could really do spin-off films of John Wick focusing on any of these characters. Donnie Yen's character as Kane. Mr. Nobody's character, who was also a really fun one. I think there's so many different directions you can go into. Hell, you could even, this would feel weird, but you could even recast John Wick as like a younger Wick into a prequel film. There's so many directions they could go with this. And I'm personally am down for them to do more, because as long as the quality stays this good, I readily invite more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I'm not against more John Wick. I don't know many people that would be against more John Wick. And so I'm excited about it. I'm also excited to see where and I'm glad to see that they aren't like, they're not just going to throw these characters to the side. Like, they are going to continue them. Because even after the credits, there is a scene with Donnie Yen's character and Akira, which we talked about earlier, of just them like, no, you're going to help me with this. Like, we're getting revenge on this. And Kane's just like, I just imagine him just like, God damn it, this shit again.
Drew?
Mm-hmm.
There was an after credits scene?
Yeah, did you not know about this?
No, I didn't know there was an after credits scene. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, it shows Kane. It shows Kane and like Akira, and they're just
Akira.
Yeah, and she's just like, yeah, you're gonna help me, and he's like, I guess.
Huh. Well then, I did not know this.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I literally was like sitting in the theater of just like, are they gonna do the Marvel thing? And I just Googled, is there a John Wick post-credit scene? And I accidentally read, yeah, it's with these two characters and they talk about this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I left. I'm like, yeah, I'll see it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well then. That's cool.
Those characters will return.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah. That's
like, honest to God, like, this is not a bit. Like, I did not know that there was more. That's cool.
Yeah.
I might have to look that up online or something. But cool. Then it does basically suggest that like there will be more with these characters.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It directly says it. Basically.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're not done. So that'd be because I was also like, it's kind of weird that the guy's daughter didn't show up. That was a big part of the first act of the movie. But it's like, okay, it's set up for later.
Well, it's nice to see like she hasn't, quote, forgiven him, but also like it seems like the whole thing is you owe me. We're gonna get payback.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing, like
cool.
she like John technically doesn't fulfill the promise of, hey, you gotta kill this guy, and he's like, yeah, sure, I guess.
Well, technically he's dead, so they don't. He has no promise to fill.
Ah, shit, yeah, freaking cop out.
But no, like this is awesome. I'm really excited then that there's going to be more coming.
Yeah.
Not really much more I can add. This was a blast of a film. It amazes me. Like I didn't watch John Wick till like the pandemic. Really, I'd never watched any of the movies, and then like it was like everybody else, they had like their pandemic films. For me, it was watching John Wick series with my brother, and man, it was such a great series. I was so happy to see this. So this is my first John Wick experience in theaters, and I'm really glad I checked it out.
Yeah. I'm also really I'm glad that like I'm glad that I saw this in like the big IMAX, like a theater, because this wouldn't have hit as well as if like I just watched it on like my laptop or my phone or my TV at home. Like, and again, as of time recording this podcast, John Wick is still out in theaters. So, well, I mean, heck, if you've listened this far on the podcast, I can't imagine that you haven't seen it. But
Right.
if you're able to see it, don't like just get it illegally online, because we don't condone that for our podcast. But go to your theater, go watch this on like the biggest screen possible, because it really does enhance the experience.
And also, like I said, the crowd reactions behind this is fun. This is the definition of a crowd pleaser film. Go watch it. That's part of the fun with this.
Yeah.
With this kind of stuff.
It's great. Highly recommend. And yeah, I don't know if there's much else to talk about. We talked about everything. Just go watch John
Yeah,
Wick.
I think we did.
All right. Well, with that being said, we end all of our fresh podcasts with our fresh picks of the week. Seth, would you like to start talking about what you have either been playing, watching, or listening to this past week?
Yeah. So I was turned on to this idea since we've been talking so much about Hi-Fi Rush. I feel like every podcast I've been on, I've mentioned it at least once.
Yeah.
I'm not really playing that game much more because I've kind of done everything I can in it, and I love it. Even though I probably should revisit it because I think they've added in new costumes for everyone, including Corsica, which we talked about needs more costumes.
Yeah.
Anywho, the thing I got turned on to is I actually listened to an album that one of the songs that plays in Hi-Fi Rush. So it's Rekka's song, Free Radicals, by Flamin' Lips. I was like, oh, this is a good song. I want to check out some more of their stuff. I listened to some more of their songs. I eventually listened to the song I listened to the album that song came from, called At War with the Mystics.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, Flaming Lips is kind of like a older school, sort of like psychedelic rock band. Very fun album. I will say that each song felt very different. I wouldn't say everyone was a favorite song of mine, but I did come away with like, I did have a great time not knowing what to expect, and I was always in for a good ride. The best way I can describe it is it reminds me a lot of like the first time I actually sat down and listened to all of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd is how it felt like.
Yeah.
So I really recommend checking out that album. At War with the Mystics by Flaming Lips.
Yeah. Hi-Fi Rush is also a game, like, I was supposed to make a video on that, but just because of life and things happening, didn't get around to it. And if I do end up doing it, it'll probably be more towards like the end of the year when we start talking about like game of the year stuff. But yeah, that it also has one of the best like game soundtracks, just period. So I also am like, that's a great album. For me, the game that I have been really focusing on, and it's kind of similar to it's like in the style of like old like martial arts style movies and stuff like that, and that kind of like environment. And Seth will know exactly what I'm talking about because he got this game for me. But that is Sifu. Sifu is an action game where the whole kind of mechanic is once you die, you can actually immediately stand back up, but you are physically older. And the more you die, the older you get. And you do get stronger because you start learning better stuff, but your health is going down. So it's a very interesting game. It's a very fun game. Heavily martial arts like style and like Wing Chun focus. So if you like John Wick, if you like Donnie Yen's character Kang, and if you especially like the IP Man series or any really old school martial arts, you'll really like the combat in Sifu. It's very fun. Has a pretty simple story. Just taking revenge and learning that violence isn't the way, but you play Sifu for the gameplay, and I've been having a lot of fun playing through the game. I am on the final person, the final boss fight, and it's a very challenging thing. I'm going into the final area at like 40, and I'm still kind of convinced like maybe I really should be 30, but I can't do that freaking snow lady fight any better.
Yeah.
It's always
No,
that
I
one.
mean, she's definitely like a tough one too. I'm glad you mentioned it. Sifu also, yeah, I love that game too. I've also recently picked it up as well on Xbox, even though I played it before, just because I love that game so much. Um, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. One of the things that was really cool that I don't know if you want to note Drew, is each level has that really cool transition. Each one,
Yeah.
where like it completely changes the landscape of it, and it's so because there's like this weird, even though everything seems grounded, there's also a weird mystical element to Sifu that just sort of in the background until it comes to the forefront. It's really neat. Um, I will say also, I will add on to your fresh pick. Once you're done finishing the main story, Drew,
Mm-hmm.
check out the arenas mode. I'm not usually a fan of these challenge type modes. I've said it before on this podcast, but I definitely think the arenas mode is worth your time. I checked it out, and it's actually a blast. It's like these little challenge rooms where you have to do certain things. Mostly, it's just beat up everyone in the room, which is cool. And you get graded, and you unlock more higher you're graded, and all that stuff. It's a blast. It starts off with you unlocking like all your moves. So that's why I recommend playing through the main story so you get acclimated with all your moves, because whenever you jump in, you're going to have all those moves available to you right from the get-go.
Yeah.
What's cool about the challenge arena is they use it as a way to pay homage and reference to a bunch of different movies. Because they throw in different modifiers and stuff. Like, for example, one of the first ones that you can play in is it's a rainy street at night. Your character is dressed up in a big black kind of like robe, looking sort of like Neo, and everyone you fight has a suit on, and they all are like wearing glasses.
It's the Agent Smith fight.
It's the Agent Smith fight, and what's cool is also it gives you like they throw different modifiers. Holding down the block button actually slows down time during this fight sequence. So and that's not the only one. There's so many little cool references. So if you love action movies, there's a lot of like challenge rooms that are basically all just like love letters and references to those films. The other one I really like is they do bring back the hallway scene, but they give you like an invincible bat and age your character up to like 40 at the start, and they just call that challenge room Old Guy.
That's fun. That's a great thing though. Like, see, like clearly this is very like martial arts like movie inspired. That's clear they're like paying tribute to what has inspired them. So that's awesome to hear about. Well, that is, I believe, everything for this episode. Seth, I want to join me for this quick little like two-parter. I say quick little, it's still an hour 30. I want to thank you for joining me.
No problem. It was a blast.
And I want to thank everyone for listening. Have a great day and stay safe out there.